Hello, and welcome to Reading Between the Lines. I am your host, the Water Dog, and today I'm continuing my series on the fall of London. We're going to be doing part 2 today, and we're going to be discussing a different clan than the Ventry this time. And as I was getting prepared for my second video on this series, I was looking at what I thought were the best overall clans thus far in what we would call fifth edition. And so really what we're looking at is group 5-6. If you're looking at the vampires that fall into group 5-6, I know there's a couple of 7s, but really we're looking at vampires in group 5-6. With fifth edition, what to the Water Dog would be the top clans at this particular point? Well, I'm looking at 4 clans right now. So right now, it's still, to me, Malkavian is the best clan. It by far and away is the #1 clan. I go with Ministry second, and with Fall of London, I have bumped Nosferatu up to third, and I've got Gangrel at 4. And today, that's what we're going to really be discussing. We're going to be looking at Nosferatu because I think of the clans that really got a good boost from the vampires that they're going to be, that you've gotten to add to them with Fall of London, that they got, a really good boost up. And so I really like a lot of the Nosferatu. And so that's what we're going to be looking at today. So let's get to it, some Nosferatu action. The Fall of London has given us 4 brand new Nosferatu. And so we're going to look at our first one. Our first one is going to be the Guardian. The Guardian is a Camarilla. He's a 4-cap. The Guardian cannot perform directed actions unless you control a ready unique odor Nosferatu. The Guardian can lock after resolution of a successful bleed against you to enter combat with the acting minion. Inferior, animalism, celerity, and potence. Now, the Guardian is such a good card. And even though he's only got 3 inferior disciplines, that doesn't matter. The fact that you can go into combat during someone else's turn is really, that's just so good. And I can see him being played really in just about, almost every Nosferatu deck, putting him in there to 1, because if they bleed and they are successful, you lock him and you're into combat. And so it's just really good. And the abilities that they're giving him are designed to beat up vampires. And so you've got that added celerity, you've got that, going in there with the potence and the animalism. And so you're able to do some damage to those vampires coming in to bleed you, especially the little small ones. And so if they've got like a little weenie cap vampire that's coming in and bleeding you, well, the Guardian can take care of that really quick. And so I like this card. This is a really good fit into your deck if you're playing Nosferatu. And so I think it's a wonderful card. I actually like the design. I actually like the fact that it is 3 inferior abilities. So it's a good designed card for the Nosferatu. Good card. Our next Nosferatu is Richard de Ward. Camarilla, 8-cap. After Richard successfully bleeds, he can look at the target Methuselah's hand, and then he can burn 1 blood to discard 1 card from it. He has inferior thaumaturgy. He has superior animalism, superior obfuscate, and superior potence. And so he's got superior at the 3 big Nosferatu abilities. When it comes to the story arc of the Fall of London, Richard de Ward is a big player in the story arc. He has a really fascinating story. He's embraced by his own mother. He then, as a vampire, has to work his way up really from the bottom of everything, from being like a kitchen servant and everything else. But what he learns is the art of manipulation, and becomes a really big master at that. And he, over time, he starts to garner a lot of power in the town. I'm trying to remember the name of the town, but I want to say it's Warwick. But he gets this power base, okay? And then this is when he meets Mithras, and then when he meets Mithras puts him into power, and he becomes really one of Mithras's trusted servants, and he would go out and do Mithras's bidding, and he became a very powerful person in London at that particular point. He has a falling out with Mithras, and it's at that particular point he joins Valerius, and it's him and Valerius that kill Mithras. And so, like I said, he's got a very interesting story arc at the Fall of London. And so I find him a very fascinating character. And for our purposes, we're looking at him from our VTES standpoint. So here we go. Of the Nosferatu, just as a singular vampire, he's my favorite of the four, and that is because I love the fact that you can get rid of a card from your opponent's hand. I love the fact that you've got all three of those superior abilities. The fact that he's also got inferior thaumaturgy means that if you want to make him Anarch, then of course now you've got Crymeth Inc. in play once again. And that is one of the things, if you've noticed lately, if you're really looking at the cards lately, whether they're Camarilla, Independent, or whatever, there is a lot of that inferior thaumaturgy, or shall we say blood sorcery, that's out there right now. And that's really to kind of push the whole Anarch thing going on. That's why Anarchs are so powerful right now, is because of that. I mean, because Crymeth Inc. is just such a good card. You're going to be seeing that a lot if you're playing, okay, and especially if you're playing with Anarchs. And so, always look at that blood sorcery there, that thaumaturgy, because that's going to be a key ingredient for that. Okay. Also, don't forget that with Nosferatu, and you've got that obfuscate, and you've got that animalism, and particularly, with Richard, and particularly with Richard the Word, Deep Song now really comes into play, and he can be a little bit more effective for you because you do have the superior at those two abilities. Because now you can enter combat with a locked vampire, and you can have that combat entered unblocked. Okay, so you can actually go after the vampire you really want to go into combat with, so you don't have to worry about being blocked. And the other good thing about going into that combat with using Deep Sum is the fact that the target vampire is now considered the acting, vampire or acting minion during that combat. And so that helps you too. That helps you how you figure out you want to go into the combat and do the damage to that particular vampire. So there's advantages to having that superior obfuscate and superior animalism, especially when you're talking about Deep Song and really wanting to go after the vampires that you want to go after without being blocked. And so that's really good about that. But Richard is really good. He's got, like I said, all three superior abilities are right there for him. He's just ready to rock and roll. The other thing also is that when you get into combat with a combat vampire like Richard, the thing that you have to look at is the fact that, with the Nosferatu, is that Potence is just a good ability, and it's such a good combat ability that you now get to play when you get into combat what I call, the big four cards for Potence, and that's Immortal Grapple, Roundhouse, Disarm, Taste of a Tie, and you can just play them. That's how you kill vampires. Mortal Grapple, Roundhouse, Disarm, and then to refuel yourself, Taste of a Tie. Because one of the things about playing Nosferatu is that they do use a lot of blood for a lot of the things that you're going to want to do, which we're going to get into when we get into the library aspect of this, okay? But when it comes to Potence, that's your big four. Mortal Grapple, Roundhouse, Disarm, Taste of a Tie, go kill vampires, suck them dry, taste up that blood, refuel your vampires, and just go out and go get them. So there you go. All right. Our next vampire is Oscar Anisov. Camarilla, 8 cap. During an action, Oscar can burn 1 blood to give a vampire you control +1 intercept. He has +1 stealth. He has inferior celerity, inferior potence, superior animalism, superior obfuscate. What a good vampire. Because one of the things that if you really notice about what they've done with Nosferatu is they've made Nosferatu a great wall deck. Okay, so especially when we're looking at the library, and we're going to get to that in a second, the ability to intercept and to stop what your predator is doing and what your prey is doing, for you to be able to intercept and then get into combat is really, really good with the Nosferatu right now, because the ability to generate intercept is just gotten so much better than it ever has before with them. And so with Oscar being able to, once again, to just give a vampire +1 intercept, there you go. Okay. And once again, just like the Guardian, he's got that superior celerity, excuse me, not the superior, but he's got the inferior celerity, inferior potence. Once again, just good good combat disciplines, okay? And then superior animalism, if you just want to play the whole animalism thing, really, really good. Good vampire, that extra +1 stealth just built in so that you don't really need an obfuscate. The other great thing about him is that, especially if you're going to add him to political decks, because he's got superior animalism and superior obfuscate, you now have a card like Animal Magnetism at your disposal, okay? Because it's going to give you the votes. And so who needs presence when you've got superior animalism and superior obfuscate and you've got Animal Magnetism, okay? Really, really good card, okay? And so since really most of your Nosferatu has at least the inferior, that they still get the vote for that. And so it makes Nosferatu have the ability to just do votes. And so on your turns, you can vote. And then when it's somebody else's turn, you just on the QVI or whatever you got to do, and then you unlock, and then all of a sudden you're stopping actions. And so it's just the ability to have all these types of cards available for Nosferatu is really, really good right now. And so I do like the discipline spread that they have right now. And I also particularly like all the text abilities, okay? So, I mean, we've looked at Oscar, we've looked at the Guardian, okay? And we've looked at Richard, and these text abilities are all really good. I mean, so you've got a little extra bonus going in with each and every one of them, so that's really, really good, okay? So let's get to our last vampire here real quick, and then we'll really kind of break down some other things for you. Our last one is Daria. Camarilla, 5-drop. Daria can lock to give another Nosferatu +1 stealth. Directed actions cost her +1 blood. She has inferior animalism, superior aspects, and superior obfuscate. Once again, another great text ability. And we were just talking about text abilities, and here we go. You know, the fact that she can lock to give another Nosferatu +1 stealth, just a way to get actions off, and particularly a way to get votes off, you know, as far as I'm concerned, to make the Nosferatu a really good, strong voting clan at this particular point, especially if you're using that Primogen Prince ability, okay? One of the things that I like about Daria, and one of the things that I think makes the Group 5-6 Nosferatu the strongest of all the groupings that you can play with Nosferatu. Doesn't matter if it's 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, whatever, 4, 5. When it comes to Nosferatu, I think 5 and 6 is now the strongest, especially because now you have Auspex. And not only do you have Auspex, you've got Auspex with 10 good vampires. 10 vampires have Auspex, okay? And 5 of those vampires have superior Auspex, okay? And so that's what's really good about it, okay? So you're looking at a lot of vampires with Auspex. The other thing is if as you're looking at the spread, when you look at their discipline breakdown, you know, not only do they all have Auspex, but they also all have Obfuscate, okay? And they also all have Animalism, okay? 7 of them, I believe, have Potence. And so when you're looking at that, it's just a really, really good spread of vampires. So how does having superior Auspex help you when you've already got a lot of good intercept going on with Nosferatu right now? Well, this is because now you have a bounce bleed, okay? Now you're in the position to bounce bleed, and that's where Daria really comes in great, okay? Because she can bounce bleed, okay? So if you don't want to, you know, if you know, want to get into combat and you just simply want to bounce a heavy bleed, then you can now bounce that bleed because you have that superior Auspex, okay? And so that's one of the good things that, Group 5-6 does for you, is that the fact that it allows you to do that. It allows you to bounce bleeds, okay? The other thing is, especially when you get one-on-one and you need extra intercept and stuff like that, you have that ability. You have that Auspex ability. So it just makes building that wall just a little bit stronger, gives you the bounce bleed. So I like the fact that she has it. And like I said, when you look at the 4 text abilities of these Nosferatu, the 4 text abilities for these Nosferatu are really, really strong. Okay, they're really good. Okay, the only downside is that you got to burn a blood for Daria, but man, that's just that's not bad. That's not bad, especially if you're going to use her for defense. And if you want to get an action off and it costs you a blood, hey, it costs you a blood, and you go with it from there. Okay, I know I like free things, but sometimes, for the cost of what you're getting and what you're going to be able to utilize the vampire for is really, really good. So I do like the fact that Auspex is there for you. Okay, so with that in mind, you got to realize that these Nosferatu have a lot of great cards coming into the game. So when you're building a Nosferatu deck, realize that really about 6 good cards that you can put into just about any Nosferatu deck right now, and you couldn't go wrong. Secret Library of Alexandria, Storm Sewers, Spawning Pool, Warsaw Station. These are all really, really, really good cards. Okay, you know, that can go, like I said, into any Nosferatu deck. And I like them. I mean, if you're gonna play Nosferatu, I put them in that deck. I mean, I'm throwing them in there. Okay, but to me, the 2 major cards that you're going to put into your deck now, especially with with this coming to 5th edition, it's going to be Creeping Sabotage and the Warrens. Okay, Creeping Sabotage is a +1 stealth action, requires a Nosferatu. X is the number of copies of this card you control. Put this card in play during your unlock phase. Your prey burns 1 pool. Minions can burn this card as a D action. So, okay, it's got none in play, so the first one's free, right? The second one's going to cost you 1. The next one's going to cost you 2. But the whole idea is that when you get over there during your unlock phase, your prey is taking damage. The other thing is if they're wanting to take it off the board, they're going to have to take an action to do it. And guess what? That's where the Warrens comes in. Only usable during an action directed at you or a card you control. +2 intercept with an additional +1 intercept if this Nosferatu is titled. And one of the good things about your Nosferatu right now is that you do have 6 really good titled vampires. Okay, and we're going to get to that in just a second. Okay, and so like I said, that right there with that 1 card gives you 3 intercept. That 1 card, Warrens, gives you 3 intercept. Okay, let's not even mention the amount of intercept that you can get with some animalism cards, and the amount of intercept that you're going to get with Auspex cards if you're playing Auspex as the ability. Nosferatu can wall up. Okay, to really get past a good Nosferatu deck right now, you have to make sure that you've got in your hand against them at least 4 stealth at a minimum. Okay, and in a lot of cases you're going to need 5 or 6. Okay, because of the fact of how they have built up the defense for them to be able to react so much better than they ever have before. And so it's just a great setup right there. Okay, so when it comes to the library, those 6 cards are definitely going to be in your library. Okay, when it comes to deck design, for me, really, I'm a combat guy. Okay, and so for me, I'm going to center a lot of things on animalism, which I think is the best ability. Okay, so we're always looking at what I call, we were talking about the big 4 for potents, right? Well, for me, the big 4 for animalism is Carrion Crows, Aid from Bats, Target Vitals, Taste of a Die. That's it. Okay, and you just put a bunch of Aid for Bats into your deck and just keep pressing. Okay, because that's what it does. You got the environmental damage each round. You've got the Aid from Bats, which is going to give you the press. And then of course with the Target Vitals, now your Aids for Bats is swinging for 3. So with Crows, that's 5 damage. You're going to taste all that back up if you need to refuel your vampire from playing all those Creeping Sabotages, and go with it from there. So once again, building a combat set of vampires, you can do that with anything, because you've got that, and then don't forget with potence, you've got the same thing. We'd already talked about it, but there's your Mortal Grapple, your Roundhouse, your Disarm, your Taste of a Die. You could do it either way you want to, however you feel like you're gonna, whatever your play style is for combat. So all those vampires are really set up to do that well, to do that very, very well. And the other good thing is that of the if I'm choosing, it's a lot easier to play inferior potence than it is inferior animalism. Okay, so if you have to choose between potence and animalism, if you're going to play the inferior so that you can play smaller capped vampires, then you play the potence. If you're going to play the superior, then you go with animalism, so you're going to be using mid to higher capped vampires in order to do that. So, that would be the difference between the two. Okay, but of course we had mentioned this earlier. Really, to me, right now, to have a vote deck is just so good because you could just do so much with it. First off, let's just say you wanted to make a Primogen deck with just the Primogen. Okay, realize right now, if I was going to do that with Group 5-6, I would center around the ability of Obfuscate more than any other ability. Okay, it would be Obfuscate. And there are a total of 8 good Primogen right now that have Obfuscate. Okay, and 7 of them have it at Superior. Okay, 7 of them have it at Superior. And so you're able to do all sorts of bleeding with that. Okay, you could just do bleed, 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 and then you can vote, 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 vote. Okay, because you're going to be able to get your votes off in this, that, and the other. If you're going to play it just straight Nosferatu voting, like I said, they've got 6 good political vampires. Okay, because you're looking at 4 good Primogen and 2 really good princes. Okay, and especially Benjamin Rose, and I would probably center things around Benjamin Rose of the 6 vampires, really around him the most, because he can take the action to give you a +1 hand size. Okay, so you can just take a +1 stealth action to increase your hand size by 1, and you can have him do that every turn. Therefore, your hand size is bigger, bigger, bigger. And of course, with the fact that you have animal magnetism, you can always bump your votes as you need it and stuff. Because of the Obfuscate, you're going to be able to bleed and get the edge to get the extra vote as needed. And so you can have a really good, strong vote deck with these guys, okay? The other thing about being a Primogen, okay, and the fact that the Nosferatu have 4 of them is now you get to play, 2 really good cards that require Primogen, okay? The first one is Will of the Council. It's a +1 stealth action, requires a ready Primogen. Put this card on the actin Primogen. During the referendum of a political action, this Primogen can burn 1 blood to gain 1 vote. This Primogen can burn this card to play a card that requires a prince, as if he or she were a prince. This Primogen can burn this card when a prince enters Topor to receive and contest the same title as that prince. A vampire can have only 1 Will of the Council, so you can actually use that particular card as well. But the best one is going to be a protected district. Okay, requires a Primogen, only usable during a bleed action against you or during the polling step of a political action. Reduce the bleed amount by 3, or this vampire gains +3 votes against the referendum. Of all of the cards in the game right now, to me, the best defense card one-on-one, when you get heads up with somebody one-on-one, protected district is the best card in the game. Because because when you're one-on-one, you can't sit there and bounce bleed anymore. Okay, you're either going to have to stop the bleed or you're going to have to take the bleed, right? Protected district does that. That's a great reduction of 3. Okay, then if you're getting into a vote situation, you've also got the +3 votes. Okay, to defend yourself with. So like I said, to me, of all the cards, when it gets to heads up right now, this is the best card. I like Protected District, and and it takes a Primogen. And who's got the best Primogen right now? Nosferatu. Nosferatu's got them. So there you go. Well, folks, that wraps it up for me right there. I appreciate you listening. We're going to be continuing with part 3 next time, and I'm going to be out of here. I'm the Water Dog. Y'all take care.
Whoa, you watched the whole video? Hey, thanks for watching, man. I appreciate it. If you like what you've been seeing, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Y'all take care.